around, Skull Brothers and Sisters. This is Skull World, brought to you by Minnesota Sports Talk. I'm your host, Dave. You can follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook at Skull World. And I brought on JJ Vikings. What's up, man? Say hi to the crew.
Hi, crew.
Not that they don't already know, man, but where can they find you?
Well, you can find me on YouTube and Twitter. Those are kind of the main apps that I control. The rest I have Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
Awesome. Now, you've been making the rounds quite a bit and doing interviews and getting interviewed. Is there one or two interviews that you've done that stand out to you, player-wise, or you getting interviewed?
Player-wise, I think it's probably both Cam Bynum and Dalton Reisner, just because they seem like very passionate people, and they're willing to put God before anything else, and willing to support kind of what they do and foundations that they have. Just very passionate, hardworking people who they don't think they're too good for anyone too. They're willing to interact with fans. I kind of got that full experience with Cam Bynum at the Vikings Bucks Week 1 game. And the crazy thing is, with Dalton Reisner, I've actually never been to a game while he's been on the Vikings. So, because we signed him on after that Week 1 game.
Now, were you big on the train of getting Reisner to sign with us back when all of us were calling for him to get signed?
Oh, absolutely. I saw something in him, something that our O-line definitely needed. And I felt like he was going to be the guy because we were in desperate need of O-line help. Even though we got lots of touchdowns spread around, like back in Week 2 against the Eagles, Jordan Addison, KJ Osborne, TJ Hawkinson, and just people like that. But still, those are kind of like garbage time touchdowns. So they weren't really, they didn't matter the most at the time. So when the things did matter, we saw that Alexander Madison fumble. It was an unfortunate outcome of the game. And Justin Jefferson fumbling it out of the back of the end zone. Kirk Cousins not having enough time because of his O-line. And just all that stuff. That can really hurt a football team. So I decided to kind of get on the Reisner train long before it ever left. So I feel like that was a great decision for me because I definitely saw something in him.
Now, you just mentioned a few things. Did you feel like the Vikings got better throughout the season as far as O-line play?
They've been decent, but Dalton Reisner allowed 0 sacks the entire season.
Yeah, you think it was part of it, why they started, like before Kirk got hurt, it seemed like they started to improve quite a bit.
Yeah, and in my interview with Reisner, he told me that he's okay with all the guys like Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, and all those bigger guys getting the hype, because if they're getting the hype, it means that he's doing well at his job with the O-line, the blocking, things like that. Because offensive linemen can easily make a quarterback look bad. So I feel like the fact that he's doing his job well, that allows the bigger players, not to take anything away from Reisner, but the bigger players kind of to shine as well.
Now, when I first talked about him, one of the things I noticed about him playing on other teams is he was like one of those guys that trailed the play and would go down and pick up the other team or his other teammates and do that. And what I didn't know that he would do karate kicks at the end of plays. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah. I thought he actually would have kicked the guy.
Yeah, there was going to be a penalty for taunting. Thank goodness that didn't happen. But yeah, he seems to be quite a character. Did you get that kind of sense from him that he was basically just a happy-go-lucky dude?
I didn't see him as the kind of player that would do a karate kick.
Like he's a different player on the field, it seems, right?
Yeah, I saw him as more of like a humble guy who would just go out, do his job, and just go with the flow to make sure that the team succeeds.
Now, you mentioned Cameron Bynum. I imagine he's probably been a pretty big favorite of yours. I think those are those his shoes right behind you, or are those Najee Thompson's?
Najee Thompson's.
Okay. I keep forgetting, who gave those to you, but Cam Bynum, who seemed to have come out of nowhere from last year, who had a rough year as far as, like, quarterback rating was through the roof against him. I never thought it was necessarily his fault, but there was talk about him being on the bubble, and then he took over that role, and, now he's our best safety.
Yeah, he's leading the team in tackles. I believe he has like a 137 tackles.
Crazy. It's usually not the best thing to have your safety get all those tackles, but, it's not a bad thing per se for an individual.
You know, he's definitely making it a movie out there, and Josh Metellus is too, but he's doing it in his own way. You know, don't they call him like Mister Everything, Mister No Excuses, things like that?
That is that no excuses.
That's also his Twitter handle. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Now I noticed. Did you have an interview with him too?
Um, he hasn't gotten back to me yet, so you know, I'm just
I
waiting until he
I
does.
I'm DM'd him too. He got mad at me apparently thinking I cut him. No excuses. I put out a list of the defense I liked, and he had to click on more, and it would show him at the bottom in his own position, like a flex defensive back position, and he
Yeah, I
got
saw
mad at
that.
me. The first time I ever had a well, it's not the first time I've ever had a Viking message me at all, but yeah, the fact that I pissed one off, he wasn't mad or anything, but he just said it was funny that he lost his job to a guy who wasn't on the team. And I'm like, you're not on there. I actually cut my favorite player, Harrison Smith. So, he's the one who should be mad.
Antoine
But
Winfield. Well, I want Antoine Winfield Jr. You know, he
you
went
know
to
what I'm
college.
talking about then. Yeah, because that's
Yeah,
who I had on the.
he went to college in the great state of Minnesota, University of Minnesota. He knows that he should know the team pretty well at least, you know. But his father played for the Vikings too, Antoine Winfield Sr. and Antoine Winfield Jr. does have the skill positions that you need, and 6 forced fumbles. He is a game changer and a guy who you would want on your football team. And I was laughing so hard back in the 2020 Super Bowl when he did the peace sign right in front of Tyreek.
Oh, it was beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that. Because earlier in the year that he did it to him, right?
Yep.
That guy Tyreek did it to him. So
Yep.
yeah. Now, one of the things that's impressed me and probably other people is that just the way you talked right now, you're not just a current Viking fan. You talk about historical Vikings, and I see you tweet about it too sometimes. Is there a favorite player that you kind of look back in the past that stands out to you?
So many. Case Keenum, Stephon Diggs, Kyle Rudolph.
Way back, huh?
Unless you mean earlier. Well,
No, no, that's fine. That's fine. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
that was when I first started watching football. There was Everson Griffin. There was Jarius Wright. There was
Jerry's
Jarek
right. All he did
McKinnon.
was catch first downs, man. That guy's
Yeah,
pretty good.
yeah. I miss him. I miss 2017. You know, I was living in Minnesota. My Vikings were actually good, and that was the closest feeling we have to the Super Bowl. You know, not that we're not a good team now. It's just that we have a lot of potential and need to improve. But we were great back then. Well, nowhere near the 1998 Vikings, but still pretty good in 2017.
Gotcha. Speaking of '98, we that's when we all became big fans of Randy Moss. That was my first jersey I ever bought from a store. I was living in Fort Myers, Florida, and the only thing they had to sell for Vikings gear was Randy Moss jerseys. We all were kind of pissed off when he got traded. Now you have a favorite player, correct, in Justin Jefferson, who's
Yes,
kind of had the meteoric rise like Randy Moss has, and there has been just and let me get your impression of it, of people saying we need to trade, and this is not a big contingent of Vikings fans, but we need to trade Justin Jefferson. What do you have to say to those people?
I don't know. Maybe lay off whatever you're on.
Now
But
we get some people in the chat talking about it, but yeah, I don't know if they're half kidding or whatever. But the people that come out and talk about getting rid of Justin Jefferson, I don't know. It's kind of a different time now. The salary cap is huge. The receiver position is just more valued. You can plug and play other positions. But going forward, how important is Justin Jefferson to this team?
Oh, very important. You know, you got to keep a guy like that happy. A big skill position player. Everyone obviously thought he was going to play in the slot at LSU. He definitely killed those rumors, and he also just a very humble person. He's willing to help and interact with fans, and he's also willing to do whatever it takes to help the team win. He's a wide receiver who will do the dirty work, and he's an absolute dog, like Ben Lieber said. And also, I feel like a player like him is a guy that you want on your team. You know, he doesn't have like a bad attitude. He gets normally upset when his team loses, and I can understand that because anyone would in their right mind. But he doesn't. I don't think he's been demanding trades. You know, I think he's a very humble player who's willing to be on a successful team, and hopefully that's the Vikings. Hopefully, but he's already missed two playoffs that he could have easily been in if he were on another team. I'm not saying I want him on another team, but you know, he definitely wants to be successful.
I think he's missed 3 playoffs now.
Oh yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yep. 2020.
yeah. And that's what, and he's talked about winning. And up until recently, I had this thoughts that Justin Jefferson and winning was that important to him, that he wanted to know. And there was a report today too, but I'll talk about it. That yeah, he wanted to win and he wanted to know what the future of the Vikings is. That's going to be a big decision. That was actually reported today by Pelissero, saying that he wants to know what's going to happen. But in the past few days, it was like, hey, I'll play no matter who's throwing me the ball, whatever. How important do you think winning versus pay me the money Justin Jefferson is?
I think if he were to openly look at the options of winning a Super Bowl rather than getting his big extension, like maybe not if he were to look at like if he were to have two options in his hands, winning a Super Bowl and or his money, right? I think he would take winning the Super Bowl because it's better to get an extension coming off of success than while trying to still have it, right? So I do hope he stays on the team. We all do. Well, most of us do. The ones that are actually Vikings fans do, but 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 I think that it is best to keep him on the team because we actually can accomplish things with him. Sure, we have seen Jordan Addison play wide receiver one before against the Niners, but still, he's still got to sit behind Justin Jefferson. I'm not taking anything away from Addison. I think he's capable of being a wide receiver one in the future, maybe even challenging Justin Jefferson for that spot in the future. But as of right now, he's got to sit behind Justin Jefferson, who is like a true blue wide receiver one.
And one thing about Jordan Addison that's impressed me is I think the game is not too big for him. It is not. It slows down for him. Like I feel like he came in the league as prepared as any receiver before, like Justin Jefferson. He came and just blew up the league. Now Addison didn't blow up the league, but he has been very effective, and he was like leading the league in touchdowns leading the all rookies in touchdowns under Kirk with 7 going into that Packers game and jump, and then we'll always remember forever him doing the Lambeau leap.
Yep.
Now, where has that cemented him in Vikings lore?
Vikings lore, like
History.
another good receiver. You know, the Vikings are really good at getting receivers.
Yep. For me, it started back with Ahmad Rashad and Anthony Carter. Then Chris Carter came, and then Moss came, and Jake Reed was there. Then now we had, then we got Diggs and Thielen, and oh my, and then obviously Justin Jefferson and Addison. Who has more better receivers in our history than us?
Oh, no one else.
Oh, yeah, it's tough to come up with. I mean, there's been some high end guys like in with San Francisco with Terrell Owens and Jerry Rice, but I mean that depth of talent has just been the Vikings mainstay. Now, part of the thing that also was said by Justin is that he said I would like to have Kirk back. I would love to have him back. So where do you feel where do you think he is with the decision process of the Minnesota Vikings. Do you think he has weight in that room saying, "Hey, it would mean a lot to me if we had Kirk back," or do you think he's part of the discussion?
I hope so because he's a guy who knows what he's talking about, and I feel like it's unfortunate that analytics and numbers have taken over the NFL instead of actual football. Because you can't always use analytics to determine your moves. I'm not saying Kwesi only does that. I think he's better than that. But what I do think is Justin Jefferson should have a tiny bit of say in the decision because Kirk Cousins is the reason why Jordan Addison was successful as he was. Now I obviously was really happy to see him get some touchdowns with Nick Mullins at QB, but it was unfortunate to see him not get any under Josh Dobbs or Jaron Hall. But I just feel like we need Kirk back and a rookie quarterback to sit behind him. Like, because Tom Brady said in an interview, we're forcing guys to kind of come out prematurely and start learning things under the fly, like and that's not going to really work like all the time. Like, you're not there are chances that you're not going to get your CJ Stroud or uh rookies like that, because CJ Stroud, he's got talent and he's rare. So he's I'm glad it worked out for the Texans, and I hope he continues to be a generational talent. But that may not work for us. But at the same time, we haven't won a Super Bowl yet, so I want us to take some risks. But I also want us to re-sign Kirk so that so whoever the rookie quarterback is, they'll have time to sit behind a quarterback like Kirk.
Now you mentioned Addison's performance with Kirk. It seemed like um, they they worked well together. It seemed just right out of the gate. And you just mentioned that Dobbs and our rookie quarterback didn't have that connection, but Mullins, who's a little more of a gunslinger, he threw it a little more at will and took a few more chances off, sometimes to his detriment with like a four pick game. But moving forward, and you mentioned Tom Brady, I posted that today too. I shared that from someone else today about how he was talking to a guy that is a Hall of Famer that sat for many years behind a other Hall of Fame quarterback, talking about other great quarterbacks who sat one or two or longer years, and he feels like that's important. Now, obviously, there's other examples of people just busting out, or playing right away and it not holding them back and eventually being pretty good. So there's more than one way to do it, but we have a situation where we all think we're going to draft a quarterback. So let's talk about that. Is there a maybe you want to rank the top five, six guys, or tell me who you like out of this quarterback draft class that could be either a hey, he's gonna have to start right away, or hey, I wouldn't mind him sitting behind Kirk.
All right, so there are. I'm gonna rank them in order from what I think. So Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, J.J. McCarthy, Drake May,
Oh,
who's a close fourth to J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, and no, sorry, no, whoa, I forgot Michael Penix. Michael Penix would be probably after Drake May, right before Bo Nix.
okay, so okay, that's six.
I do think Michael Penix is better, but when I think about getting him, these two words slow me down: knee brace, knee brace.
Yeah, we grew up watching Dan Marino play for many years with two big ass knee braces, and he did all right. But yeah, it's a it's a it's a different game nowadays. But God, he can throw the ball, right, Penix?
Well, Jaden Daniels can do the same thing. He's got mobility too.
Yeah, I think like you and me and a couple other guys we associate with, we all like Jaden Daniels as our number one. Uh, Tell me about what do you see in Jaden Daniels that makes him your number one?
I see a winner in him, and I see a good passer, a good runner too, or at least decent. And I just see a guy who has a winning mindset, a winning mentality, good confidence and belief in himself. I think that that's really important in the NFL in regular football and sports and in life. So Jaden Daniels could be the way to go, but Quasey does have his own opinions, and he's the one in control, not us, because I could tell that if us fans were in control, this whole team would have been a lot different than it is now. But whether positively or negatively, but I think Jaden Daniels just is the way to go. At first I was like Caleb Williams, but now I'm leaning more towards Jaden Daniels.
Let's say he does go in the top 3 and we can't get there. Are you starting to believe this JJ McCarthy's the top 10 pick in this draft, or are you thinking he's still going to be there after, and maybe we can get him trading up into the second or dropping down farther in the first, or do we have to pick him at 11? What is your thoughts there?
I
You
don't
have him
know.
high. You have him third.
I don't know, but the thing about JJ McCarthy is he also has that winning mindset. Like Uncle Rap said, shout out Vocal Vike on YouTube, who used to be Purple Pocket Podcast, but now Vocal Vike on YouTube. But he said that JJ McCarthy, there's something about him with that winning mindset. Like didn't he say like we'll be back in the championships before you know it? Believe that, just things like that. I want a quarterback who knows that he can win and has confidence in himself and can translate that to his performance on the field.
Now I'm supposed to have an interview here with Thor Nystrom after you, and and the whole video is gonna be about JJ McCarthy. So hopefully he confirms here, and I got that video to come out the day after yours. But yeah, I think JJ McCarthy is probably, if Harbaugh was back at Michigan, he'd be back at Michigan, because I think he could be the number one guy next year out of the draft, because it is a weaker draft class. So this may be something he just had to come out, because he why go back? Why, you won a championship, your head coach leaves, it just makes sense to come out. So I do not fault him for coming out, but it is hard to evaluate a player that threw 8 times in the Penn State game or 13 in another and had a bad game against Bowling Green. You're just like, it's tough to judge a guy like that, but all the intangibles you talked about is what makes him stay on my board. What makes me think, okay, if we pick him at 11, I won't kill anybody. I'll be fine with it. That's the kind of feeling I have from him. Like I don't necessarily think he's a safe pick by any means, but I don't think he's as risky taken there, and I wouldn't be as disappointed if
We
I would feel like we got a good guy.
we have to take risks though. Ownership has to do that, because that goose egg of Super Bowls could last forever if we don't try and succeed. Because I am a passionate fan, and I also at a young age, but I don't see being a fan of this team as a curse, like the older fans do. At least maybe not yet, but I will always love this team, and I do want us to take a risk. As long as we have 0 Super Bowls, I want us to keep taking risks until we get that. Like, what's the worst that could happen? We have nothing to lose. We really have nothing to lose.
I forget who said it today or something like, or that I saw. It's like, we haven't been to a Super Bowl in 44 years or something like that. And I'm like, dude, I'm 50. So I was like 6 when that happened. So yeah, it's been a while for me that I do not remember them playing in the Super Bowl. That's how young I was, but I was alive. How I became a fan was, obviously my family were fans, but my earliest memories is having football cards, and one of them was, obviously it was Chuck Foreman and Fran Tarkington and a bunch of other Vikings, Carl Eller. I had all these, these cards, and I was just looking at them every day, and then I didn't, until I started being able, not about when you became a fan too, is when I started to know what I was looking at. And my favorite player was Scott Studwell. He used to be the director of college scouting for the Vikings, who left because of his falling out with Spielman and Zimmer. So, are you familiar with Scott Studwell and what he was to the team?
No, but I am familiar. When I was 6 years old, one of the first Vikings players that I heard of was actually Eric Kendricks, and I had a couple of magazines. Well, I also saw Kyle Sloter in the 2017 one, but in like 2016, I was reading like this tiny magazine. Like it was like a no more of a booklet that just had like Vikings players' names in it and what they looked like. So I saw Eric Kendricks in there. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that guy looks like he could play well. And I was just looking through it until, like you said, I actually finally understood what I was looking at. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of fell in love with the team and will never let go.
Now, the main reason we brought you on today is to talk about the Vikings free agents, maybe some other free agents. But I'm just going to go down the list. Like, for instance, Kirk Cousins. Where are you sitting? Let's start with. I'm no order here, but I imagine they put it in order of importance in some way here. But Kirk Cousins, where are you at with his him being a free agent? What would you want the Vikings to do with him?
I'd want us to re-sign him and then draft a quarterback to sit behind him.
Even if that meant Jaden Daniels got drafted? Tough questions. We got them. That's a tough one, isn't it? Well,
Uh,
now I'm gonna
yeah,
save you from
because
this one.
yeah, no,
The
because he
free
might not
agencies
be
before
CJ
the
Stroud.
draft. Free agencies before the draft.
Yeah,
So it's
he
it's a
might not
hard.
be CJ Stroud though. You never know. He might not be CJ Stroud. He might still need that. Like he might still need to sit behind someone. He might not be CJ Stroud. Like the way you play in college doesn't always translate to your play style in the NFL. So he might not be CJ Stroud.
Yeah, one of the things the traits I saw in him that recently, one of Twitter guys put out a video of what Kevin O'Connell season a quarterback, and I see throwing with anticipation. I do see accuracy. I do see a big arm, and then you throw in elite running ability, and it's just I fall in love with a player like that, and I wasn't expecting to. I thought I was hearing like he's the third guy. He's the he luckily is now up to the third guy. When I looked at all the quarterbacks, I was like, dude's the number one dude. I don't know what you're talking about. So I we're both on the same page when it comes to that. For me, free agency is before the draft, so I do not want to go into the draft with Nick Mullins as your starting quarterback. You're desperate right now. You're desperate. You don't or this whole thing about of and who is it? The backup quarterback for San Francisco, Donald.
Oh, Aaron.
Um,
Oh no, Sam Donald. Sam Donald.
Sam Darnold. I'm like, come on, guys. I'm like these guys. We might as well stick with Nick Mullins as the mentor to the new quarterback. So I just it doesn't make any sense to me. But hey, to each their own. But Kirk Cousins, you're on board. I imagine at the right price, right? Not 10 years, 800 million, right? But at the right price, he'd bring him back. KJ Osborne, where do you feel like he fits in the Vikings? I think he go ahead.
It'd be sad to see him go, but signs are pointing towards that.
Why do you think is it he may be too expensive to be a third receiver, or he'll
I
get too
just
much
think
in free
Brandon
agency?
Powell is better and at a cheaper price, and KJ's production kind of lacked last year. I didn't see much of like KJ last year. Like I didn't see like where's that KJ who scored the game-winning touchdown against the Panthers week 6, 2021, or the KJ that scored the game-winning touchdown against the Lions week 3, 2022? Or where's the KJ that's always been clutch on third downs? So just catching the football, getting first downs when you need them the most. Where's that sneaky wide receiver in KJ? Where's that KJ who has that big connection with Kirk Cousins? That's the KJ I wanted to see. I didn't see much of that KJ this year, and that's unfortunate. But I really don't want to see him go though.
He did have a couple of big moments this year. I think he had a 100-yard game late in the year and stuff
Against the
like that.
Lions. So he had
And
he had a big
he
catch
had a
and a
pretty good year.
touchdown.
And then he had a big catch earlier in the year, the diving 50-yarder. He had like a 50-yarder and then he died for the end zone. I remember that. I forget which game it was. It was either
Chargers, week 3, Chargers against the Chargers.
the Chargers game.
Yep,
Oh yeah, it was,
yeah,
wasn't it?
it was on 4th and 6 or 3rd and 6, one of those two.
Oh, this is an old list that says It says 24 free agents, but it says Jalen Rager, but it's probably from last year before we got rid of him, before we cut him. And it's probably from the beginning of the year. There's Blake Prohl, there's Tristan Jackson. That's the thing with KJ Osborne. If we're letting him go, Brandon Powell, it shows that he's a free agent too. So we're bringing Brandon Powell back over KJ Osborne. He might be the odd man out, and then Naylor, I guess, would be our other receiver that's still under contract. And then you're looking at guys like I don't know Tristan Jackson. I think he was still on the practice squad and actually made a couple of games. So
Tristan
we're
Jackson is Uncle SK's guy. Shout out Purple and Skull Media on YouTube. But Tristan Jackson, I think Uncle SK wouldn't be happy if we got rid of him because uh, the whole thing with Tristan Jackson is I think he's an underrated player. I think he is. Like I think he can go out and do a little bit of something. Like he
Mhm.
can like against the Falcons, I think that his performance wasn't the biggest ever, but it was better than bad, and I think he was doing a great job being out there supporting Josh Dobbs.
And unfortunately, injuries happen, and then they did happen throughout the receiving core. So depth might be a thing we need to think about when we're picking these guys up. T.J. Hawkinson, this is before we re-signed him, but I'm going to talk about him as far as injury goes. Uh, he might be out 4 games, or who knows, maybe longer. What's the situation there? Do you think we should look at tight end in the draft, or
Well,
where are you feeling?
As Aunt Sarah will say, we have the best backup tight end or the best third string tight end in the NFL, Johnny Munt. That's what she say.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
but
We,
I
we do
think
have Oliver too, and he actually showed out after T.J. Hawkinson got hurt,
yeah.
so that's
So
pretty good. And Munt showed out too. They did all right. They're no T.J. Hawkinson, but yeah,
so here's the order of things, like kind of the chronological order of the performance for the tight ends of the Vikings without T.J. Hawkinson. So in the preseason, I thought Nick Muse had a impressive
he
performance.
did.
In the Week 11 game, where Josh Oliver caught a touchdown pass from Josh Dobbs, Josh the Josh. So I thought Josh Oliver did pretty well too. He's also a great blocking tight end. And then Johnny Munt played well on the trick play against the Lions. So like kind of flipped it around to a couple of people, and then the pass ended up to Johnny Munt for a pretty big gain to get us closer to the end zone. So I thought that was pretty good to watch too.
So this is actually a pretty long list. We got guys like Blake Brandel, I guess, would be a free agent this year. Austin Schlottman. These guys could probably be brought back at new contracts, or inexpensive contracts. Chris Reed, Josh Sokol, I think we cut him. Again, this list is before the season and before we cut some players. But here's some important ones like DJ Wanham. He had the quad injury. Where do you feel we are at edge rusher? Do you think this is someone we got to prioritize to bring back despite the injury?
Yes, I think that he had a better performance than Zadarius Smith did in 2022.
He did. He did. This is kind of a breakout year for him. So that injury late in the year kind of hurt his free agent potential of earning big money. I think we. And how do you feel about it? You think we sign him back for a 1 year prove it deal?
Yeah.
And that would work, or do you feel like it has to be longer and more money?
2-3 years, decent money.
You think what's decent money to you?
Something that's not like a mega extension.
So minus a mega extension, we'll bring him back. Um, Daniil Hunter being a free agent. Now, this guy, there's talk about the Chicago loving him, and we'll be in a bidding war if we want to get him back. How important is it to have you want to bring back Kirk? And you want to extend Justin Jefferson. Are we bringing a Daniil Hunter back in this situation? I know
I,
it can be done, but is it wise?
I really want us to, and it is wise. He led the team in sacks. He got more sacks than the guys who were voted for defensive player of the year. It's always Vikings players that get snubbed from
We
this
do.
stuff. Yeah, like Daniil Hunter, he had like 16 something sacks, like about 16, which is more than T.J. Watt, more than Myles Garrett, more than Micah Parsons, and still Daniil Hunter didn't get any defensive player of the year votes, and that's just so disappointing, so pathetic, and so unfortunate.
One other probably big standout name, Jordan Hicks. What do you think of him coming back?
Uh, I'd like him back. I
Okay.
would.
We extended Josh Matella, so that's not an issue. But I guess Greg Joseph,
Um, can we talk about something else?
sure. How about Troy Dye?
Oh, Troy Dye. I think he's a decent backup, like a decent like a
He's
backup
a
that
special teamer, and
yeah, yeah. Also, I'm glad he got rid of like the no gloves thing. I'm glad he actually started wearing gloves because the no gloves thing was weird.
oh, and we know that you probably want to extend Marcus Davenport, right?
Oh, oh, totally, totally, totally. Oh yeah, I'd love him back. Let's pay him the most money on the team. No,
Gotcha.
it was a disappointing year for Marcus Davenport. I don't see any signs of us bringing him back. You want to know what the worst thing is?
Go ahead,
That
man.
his whole ankle situation. First of all, Jordan
I
Hicks came
originally
back.
thought he faked it.
Oh, oh, for a second, I thought he was having confidence issues or something because uh, Jordan Hicks, first of all, he had to get his leg cut open and almost amputated after his injury and came back sooner than Marcus Davenport with like his ankle. And Marcus Davenport's out of his walking boot and all that. It's like, man, after seeing him in week 4, week 5, I thought we had something in him. I still think we do, but these injuries are getting too overwhelming. And you want to know what's also worse?
Go
My
ahead.
my 13-year-old friend in school, Max, was walking with a sprained ankle. He was walking perfectly fine and running with one. So if a middle schooler can run with a sprained ankle, then I think an NFL player can too.
Is your
But
friend 300 pounds?
oh no. But when you are that big, you kind of have to depend on your kind of your feet, your legs for the kind of balance and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
he's actually really skinny, my friend.
he probably heals faster. But yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't imagine Davenport will come back anytime soon. Now, is there a free agent out there or two that you think would help improve this team?
L'Jarius Sneed is one of them. Jalen Johnson, just someone to play beside Byron Murphy. You also need
Hmm.
your, yeah, you also need Christian Wilkins. And I'd love to have Christian Wilkins and then a defensive tackle in the draft. Like imagine that guy Sweat in the draft, and then alongside Christian Wilkins. That'd be
We like all the same players, man. We like
that'd
all the
be
same players. Now, would you? Here's a good question, and we'll end on this. Our running game is 29th in the league. It wasn't even that good with Cook, even though he'd get the 4 or 5 yards per carry, but we still were in the bottom 25% of the league every year in running. Uh, how should we address that?
I think we should bring back Cam Akers. I think he had some good potential before getting injured in week 9. In week 8, he scored the first rushing touchdown for the Vikings team. And then I think that Ty Chandler, imagine Cam Akers and Ty Chandler, how good of a combo that is. And also, I feel like
That's a combo I was wanting all year, but yeah, I know.
I,
Keep going.
I feel like Ty Chandler finally got his opportunity to like shine after Cam Akers got hurt. But I still want to see a lot more. Well, not really. I just want to see Cam Akers back. That's all. For a cheap price, we can make it happen.
Yeah. Now we got like 9 picks in the draft. I imagine you. Do you think we'll use one on a running back?
I don't think it's worth it. I think you have to see what you have right in front of you, and that's Cam Akers, that's Ty Chandler. I feel like you have people to work with, but if you want to go crazy and talk crazy, we can trade for Saquon Barkley
Okay,
or
let's do
Derrick
it.
Henry, like Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, one of those three.
Yeah, I brought up the fact of bringing in a running back as far as we didn't have any rushing, barely any rushing touchdowns. We're first downs we're not getting. We're playing behind the chains all the time. The red zone we had problems. We're a top 10 offense, but 25th in scoring or whatever. So I felt like a running game or a back that falls forward, someone that's hard to bring down would be like an extra, a little extra for this offense. But those are some big names, and who knows if we'd be able to pull that off. You think it'd be like one of those things is like, hey, our offense is too good. It doesn't matter what we do at defense.
Oh, I it does matter. All positions matter in today's NFL. All of them matter. I think that Offense, defense,
Hey,
special
the
teams.
Patriots won the Super Bowl with like the 29th ranked defense, so who
Oh, I
knows?
don't care about the Patriots. I'm done with them. Their fans, they still want another bowl. Like, please get out of here. I'm pretty sure all of us laugh when you guys lose. I'm pretty sure all of us laugh or do some kind of dance. Okay, so I don't want to hear any more crying Patriots fans. I'm done with them. But but what I do want to hear is they're thinking about trading possibly for like trading their pick to us.
Oh, yes. I guess we'll end on that. That the fact that maybe they have a lot of holes to fill, and maybe that trading down and getting more picks. That's kind of been the Patriots' way under Tom Brady, is that they trade down, accumulate picks, and they get rid of veterans and they get the compensation picks. That's been the Patriot way for a long time. They may be still doing that, and that may be an opportunity for us to get up to three. Do you feel like there's any reality to that?
I think so.
Is that where we get Jordan Daniels or Jaden Daniels?
I hope so.
Hey, do we have to trade up there to get JJ McCarthy? He's your number three.
I don't know about that.
Would you want with JJ McCarthy? I guess I'll end at that. Are you if the other three guys are taken, Drake May, and JJ McCarthy's like the fourth guy off the quarterback that's sitting there, even though he's your number three. Do you stick and pick at 11? And do you feel like you'd stick and pick him right there?
Yeah, at that point there wouldn't be many options. I'm not saying I don't like Bo Nix or the rest of those guys, but I'd take JJ McCarthy over those guys any day.
You want to make sure you get that your guy, even if it's up there at 11. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and if we don't get JJ McCarthy, yes, it'll go down to Michael Penix in his knee brace.
So that's your next guy. All right, man. Hey, thanks for being part of my show, man. I hope we can do it again.
Appreciate
Uh,
you.
Before we go, tell them where they can find you.
JJ Vikings. You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. All my handles are JJ Vikings. I want to keep it simple, and those are all the places you can find me. And trying to grow my channels, grow my channel on YouTube and grow the rest of my platforms too. So make sure to follow, subscribe, whatever you got to do to show support. And all the people who already have been, I dearly appreciate you all. And Skull Vikings.
Skull Vikes.